It's time for Wave 3 Listens Live on Kentuckiana's first live local TV talk show, all hosted by John Ramsey. This is Wave 3 Listens Live.
And welcome to the Thursday edition of Wave 3 Listens Live. I'm pretty excited about the show. Here's what we have on tap today. As you know, this is a very vibrant town when it comes to live theater. That's thanks to Stage 1 Family Theater. They'll be on the show today talking about a new production. Also, the Bourbon Classic. Everything about Kentucky bourbon you could possibly want to know. We'll talk to those folks about that. That would be a great Father's Day present. Send someone to this event. The Ageless Center has been around for 30 years. We're going to talk about weight loss. We're actually going to have someone who's experienced a great deal of weight loss and how you can do the same. Dr. Eli Karam is here. He is a licensed marriage and family therapist. If you have an issue, we all do, he's going to take care of you. And I'm so glad to be joined by a colleague of mine. Mr. John Bowl is here. John Bowl has won 75 Emmys, ladies and gentlemen. A little applause here. We've got a small studio audience. 75 Emmys. 7 of those for being the best anchor. And if you watch him in the morning, you know he deserves every one of those Emmys. John, welcome to the show.
Wow, thank you very much. Best intro I ever got in my life.
Well,
That's good stuff.
Well, it's true. I had a little overview about what we're going to discuss today.
Yeah.
And I'm glad they didn't give me the details because it was eye-opening and by the same time a little alarming. I want you to talk to us a little bit about your new investigative report.
Okay, yeah, latest special report we've got coming up tonight at 11 o'clock. We get a lot of tips, obviously, and it seems that I've been trying to figure out why I get these tips, and I think at the very root of it is I think, unfortunately, there's some distrust of Louisville police over time by some people. And so this tip came in that there's a guy just got busted for running a drug house, and he's still operating 100 drug deals a day. And the police won't do anything about it, was what the person said. And I'm like, no, I'm sure the police would do something about it if you would tell them. But I went out and I've done a lot of these kind of drug dealing kind of investigations and stuff. And I was blown away, John. The first day I parked like 9 in the morning on like a Monday, and it was cold out, and it was like 20 an hour, people coming and going from this house. And I started rolling on it, and it was just unbelievable, the flourishing activity that was going on in this place. And then what caught my eye is, wow, Brandeis Elementary is like just a few houses down, wow. Right up the street. So once I got looking into it, as we're running some video here, I confronted the guy who lives there, but here's some of the video, like what I would see all the time. Once I got looking into it, the Metro Police busted this place on March 1st, felony drug trafficking. The guy's got a long history of trafficking and convictions and shock probation and mess-ups and breaks and dismissals. So my question is, then for police, is how in the world can, something like a known quantity like this, right next to a school, continue to be flourishing? So that's some of the questions we'll take to police wow. in the story. You know,
John, we both work for a news organization, so it's very seldom that I'm shocked by anything. And yeah. You as an investigative reporter, even you, as jaded as you are, were you a little shocked about, does this happen in our community by an elementary school?
Yeah, I was. I wasn't so shocked about its proximity to the elementary school. I was shocked about the brazenness of it. And I've seen some real brazen stuff: guns, drugs handed right out, and just the people lining up down the street. People bringing cabs in to go in and come out just a couple minutes later and pop stuff in their mouth, which is a common practice, what they do with crack cocaine, in case they have to swallow the evidence. It was just amazing.
When you show folks this investigative report, when you've shown some of your colleagues here at Wave 3,
yeah.
What kind of reaction do you get? Do you get people just jaw-dropping going, you got to be kidding?
Yeah, every time you do, it's interesting, people think, it's drug dealing or it's illegal activity, what do you expect? And then when people watch it and how people actually carry it out, it's pretty mesmerizing, especially when it's going on right under people's noses. And that, which brings up another whole interesting issue I found in some of these kinds of stories, which is a lot of people walk right by it, and they know what's going on. Some people have no idea, and some people know exactly what's going on, which raises the question, why don't they do anything about it? And I was talking with police about that, and it's a twofold thing. One is they're worried. There'll be repercussions. But another is a lot of people have just kind of like given up hope. Like in the Beecher Terrace thing that I did, they just pretty much. And I interviewed a guy who said he grew up with this all around him, and just after a while, you just kind of take it for granted that this is what life is really like, which is really sad.
John, you mentioned repercussions. You put yourself in the line of fire when you're down that close to it, and especially when you're exposing it publicly on Wave 3. Yeah. Do you ever worry about your personal safety?
Yeah, I have had my house graffitied up, spray painted up with death threats and stuff, and I've had police 72 hours watch in my cul-de-sac on my home for things like that. Yeah, I've gone through that.
Now, as long as you've been in the business, as many awards as you've won, how does this rank up there? This investigation report?
This is not. No, this isn't like rank in something like award winning. This is just something important. JCPS right now is drafting a letter to send home to the parents, and police are getting busy cracking down on this place. And it's interesting. The police were kind of surprised by this because this is a block away from Victory Park. You know the reputation Victory Park has. There was a homicide last month right there at 23rd in Kentucky. Where I was, it was at 26th in Kentucky. And so they've been cracking down, spending overtime money, getting out of their squad cars and getting on foot, on bike, on ATV. And he just had a community meeting, and the 2nd Division major told me nobody complained. Everybody said it's going great. So people are happy, and yet the stuff is still flourishing like that.
I'm curious, and I'm sure I'll see more about this tonight, but what kind of reaction do you get from the police? Are they willing to discuss this with you, or do they say that's our business, stay out of it? Do they welcome the fact that you're giving it exposure?
They're very cool about it. They're not, the first couple of kinds of stories I did like this, it was all like they felt like we're trying to make them look bad, and that's not it at all. And share the video we can and bring them in, show them, and they go right in there. The last 2 investigations I did that involved criminal activity like this, they met with us, went right out, and pounced. As a matter of fact, coming up in about a week and a half, I'll be doing a follow-up on the Beecher Terrace thing we did a year ago where we had drugs and guns right there in the homicide zone, and they have gone out and cracked down big time on it. You don't see anybody out down there anymore. So no, they get out after it.
A lot of news organizations, the majority of them, they all say we're making a difference. We're on the street making a difference. A report like this will make a difference. Yeah. Is that what you seek? Is that a mission of yours, John?
Yeah, I'm not necessarily one of those investigative journalists who has to get a result. Remember the old slogan here used to be, investigating the problem, getting results at Rave, remember?
Exactly.
I don't necessarily feel like it's a journalist's responsibility to always get a result. It's my job to go expose something and then let the powers that be do what they need to do.
Interesting. Yeah. Before I let you go, John, please be careful.
I will.
I hear a story like this and I go, he's in the middle of that. No, I'm serious. Be careful.
We got much softer stuff coming up after that. The whole morning, the Sunrise crew went out, and we're going to run a story every morning through the Olympics for the 2 weeks of the Olympics, where we went out and tried out all the different Winter Olympics events. Got experts, learned freestyle ski jumping, everything. It's going to be awesome. So yeah, we'll go softer now.
If you had to go for the gold in one event, we're all very excited here at Wave, as you can.
Downhill skiing.
Downhill. I was going to ask you, is that the one? Oh.
I've done everything from rugby to sand volleyball, triathlon, everything. The coolest athletic feeling in the world is the gates up on the hill and doing either alpine skiing or downhill, coming weaving through the gates.
Adrenaline rush.
Awesome.
Again, so I'll repeat. Be careful, John.
Okay.
All right, John Boll. Again, is that right? 75 Emmys,
That's
John?
Right, yeah.
Wow, where do you keep all those? I'll borrow a few of those if you don't mind. Okay.
On the mantle.
Can I borrow a few?
Yes, you can.
Because I could parlay that.
You certainly can.
All right. John Boll, once again, investigative report happens tonight, correct?
Yes, tonight at 11 o'clock.
Tonight at 11 o'clock here on Wave 3. All right. Coming up, licensed marriage and family therapist, Dr. Eli Karam is here. If you have an issue, give us a call, 571-5263. Professional help here. This guy, I promise, very, very good. Coming up next on Wave 3 Listens.
The Olympics are coming February 6th to the networks of NBC. Get updates now on Wave3.com and the Wave 3 News app. Then watch all the coverage of the Winter Games live from Sochi, Russia, right here on Wave 3 News, your official Olympic station.
How much time we got here, guys?
All right.
John did a good job.
Yeah.
Mic check, Doctor.
Yep. You hear me? 10, 9, 8, 7.
I want to begin this segment by thanking the Kentucky Association of Marriage and Family Therapists because they have provided the expertise of Dr. Eli just about every Thursday for the last couple of months here. Well, for quite some time. It's been more than that. How long have you been on, Doc?
We're starting our second year, buddy.
My goodness, that long? It's incredible. Well, you've missed a few, but I'm glad you're back.
Yeah.
We always have a central theme, and on today's show, we're going to talk about rejection. And I wanted to ask you, are we talking about relationship rejection?
Yeah.
Are we talking about rejection maybe for a job you were looking at?
Yeah.
What kind of rejection are we talking about?
Well, let's talk about rejection in all forms. Let's give some general tips to start today, and then let's please call in as you always do, and we can talk about dealing with adversity in your important relationships at work, also helping people you love, whether it be a family member, your child, deal with rejection. We know in life you can't go through it without hitting these what we call developmentally appropriate failures, which feel like rejection. So please call in, you can share your story, and we'll give you some tips.
All right, 571-5263. All right, and before we get into rejection and discussing it a little closer, talk to me a little bit about the Kentucky Association of Marriage and Family Therapists.
Sure.
If you have an issue in the household, you encourage them to get online, and it's not like you assign someone. You get to actually take a look at some of the profiles of folks, right?
Right. Remember, marriage and family therapists, or specifically licensed marriage and family therapists, are going to work with you in all your relational issues. So you don't have to be married or even in a relationship to see a marriage and family therapist. They look at strength and health. They're not going to psychopathologize you, meaning look at you through deficit of your problems. And they're going to work with you to kind of tap into your existing strengths and kind of put a plan together. So you can do that. Find a licensed marriage and family therapist. Over 400 in Kentucky, most centrally located right here in Wave Country. You can go to www.therapistlocator.net, and what that's going to do is give you access to all of the marriage and family therapists. You put in your information, you will get the profiles of the therapist, and then you can look on there, find a therapist that matches, call them up. Any marriage and family therapist should be able to give you about a 5 to 10 minute consult on the phone to see if you are going to be a good fit for them, and then you have your appointment.
I love that. All right, let's talk about how to handle rejection, how to cope with rejection. I know that's a theme today, and I think we all experience it at one time or another. I remember there was a point in my life when I had this job that I really wanted, and it was kind of sort of promised to me, and anyway, it got pulled out from under me, and it just wiped me out.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're really goal-oriented, if something like that happens, it can smoke you. Let's talk a little bit about
all right.
that.
So, the first tip, you want to kind of be realistic in the sense that sometimes what we're shooting for is not realistic. A lot of people, young people right now, are applying for colleges, and they will have schools that are in their reach, and then they'll have some that are a little out. And if you are not realistic kind of in your goal, sometimes you set yourself up for a harder fall and experience more rejection. So you have to be realistic in your expectations. And number two, plan ahead. Think of the various outcomes and results. And that doesn't mean don't be positive, don't think that it's going to work out, but also plan ahead, because if you only have one outcome in your head, if you are rigid in your thinking, whether it be around relationships or a job or something coming up, you can set yourself up for further rejection. So have some multiple options. And then three, going along with that, don't put all your eggs in one basket. So often on our segments we talk about balance, and meaning when I think of balance, I think of, do you have appropriate intellectual, creative outlets? Do you have appropriate social outlets, good people in your life? Do you have appropriate physical outlets, exercise? If you don't, if you got everything in work and you don't get that promotion, your sense of self is defined by that, who you are, versus if you have good friends, if you have family, if you have other outlets, if you experience rejection, you will be able to rebound quicker and kind of focus on really the positives in your life, in the sense that through every rejection, you learn a lot about yourself. So, and we'll talk about that, whether it be a relationship ending or whether it be not doing well on a test or a work assignment. You learn a lot about yourself in the process. And other tips, next tip on there, let's see. As I said, focus on those positives. Keep learning about yourself, this idea of self-discovery, and separate you from the event. You, John, if you don't hit the goal, or you don't get the job, that does not mean you are a failure. It means there's circumstances. And many people, again, they personalize it to themselves. They don't believe that there is separation from them. They are the problem. And marriage and family therapists work with the client or the family to separate them from the problems. Just because you have a setback does not mean you are a failure. And then that last one is build self-knowledge and resilience. You know, if we don't learn from our own history, as they say, we're doomed to repeat it. So even if you have an adverse experience or you experience a failure, what you learn about yourself in the process is very important so that you don't repeat that same thing. So self-knowledge, the ability to bounce back, even through adverse circumstances, is huge. So those are global tips, and certainly we want to hear from you, and we talk about specific tips as far as relationships and jobs and all that type of stuff.
All right, 571-5263 if you have a marriage or a family issue. Question though, this is all great sound advice, but what if you're affected by rejection, not directly? Let's say it's a loved one. Let's say maybe it's your husband who experienced some rejection, but you have to handle that. You're seeing his mood change, you're seeing things happening, you're wanting to support him, but you don't know how. Do you have any tips for those folks?
Yeah, well, it depends the type of person you're talking to. So yeah, as a support network, we care about the people, and when they feel hurt or they feel pain, a lot of times we do too. So the first portion is you want to validate the experience of that person. So there's a difference between, you know, some people practice tough love, or get over it, or, you know, do this or do that. So a lot of times before people can take that advice and actually move on themselves, they need to know that their loved ones can understand the experience. So if you can validate what it's like to feel rejected, to feel like you didn't do your best, that's the first step. And then the second step is not to help that person dwell in it, but to help them move on. But sometimes people can't move on until they know your loved one actually gets what it's like to be that way.
I can understand that. That makes perfect sense. Coming up in the next segment, we're going to talk about relationship rejection. Perhaps you've been left at the altar, or perhaps you had your eyes on someone and they didn't feel the same way. They weren't feeling the same kind of magnetism towards you. Whatever the case may be, Doc will talk about that as well. And we're opening up those phone lines. Now, what kind of issues do you typically cover marriage and family therapy? Really, all the above, right?
Yes, marriage and family therapist, again, they're going to work with any relational issue, whether you're figuring out how to stay in a relationship, how to exit a relationship, or, as we're talking about today, it didn't work and you want to learn about yourself so you don't make the same mistake. Yeah.
All righty. We have a caller on the line. Susan is with us. Would like to talk to Dr. Elas. Susan, welcome to the show.
Hey, how are y'all?
We're doing very well.
I'm good. Pardon me, I'm a little nervous. My situation is my husband is an alcoholic, and we have a 10-year-old son, and he is having trouble with this. So am I. But I would like some information or some help on finding a therapist that my son can talk to and that will be able to help him cope with this.
Very good question. When you have an issue that affects the whole family, alcoholism, and Susan, thank you for calling in. I appreciate that. Let me ask you a question first. Is your husband, does he acknowledge he has a problem, or he's in kind of denial about the level of his relationship with drinking?
He says he knows he's an alcoholic, but he won't do it. He might stop drinking for a day or two or three, but then it goes back to the same. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I've talked to him about trying to get into rehab or just going to AA, and it's just hitting a wall. So I have to take care of my son and myself.
Right. So when you go and see a marriage and family therapist, they will treat the whole family. So if your husband would come, that would be great. Many people, though, that are in denial about the severity of their problem, they don't obviously elect to come and see marriage and family therapists. So the marriage and family therapist would work with you and your son. And first of all, normalize that experience. You know, it's one thing to be a spouse and understand kind of the unpredictability and the emotions that go around with a situation like that, an addiction or a substance out of control in the family. It's another thing to be 10. So the marriage and family therapist is first going to make an alliance, build a relationship with you and your son. And then he or she is going to help you and your son draw some boundaries that will either do two things. It will provide you kind of a secure plan to protect your son, even though you love your husband, or it will kind of up the ante and force your husband to realize that he has, you know, if he cannot confront his issues, that he can potentially lose what is most important to him, his wife and his son. So in many situations like this, when framed through the child, that person that did not have the strength or resilience to get help will do it. Because they love their child. So a marriage and family therapist is going to help you set up the plan and hopefully engage your husband, but either way, help you to help your son. And thank you very much for that call.
Susan, thank you for the call. Appreciate that. And we hope for the best positive outcome for you, your son, and your husband as well. If you have a question, 571-5263, more with Dr. Eli Karam. He is a licensed marriage and family therapist. We'll be right back on Wave 3 Listens.
Hello, I'm Tom Owen. Join me in supporting Farmington Historic Plantation's fundraising campaign. Your gifts will help support Farmington's community and educational programs on its scenic 18-acre site, providing a fun place to learn about a historic hemp plantation and our connection to Abraham Lincoln. Help preserve Farmington's future as one of Louisville's most important historic treasures. Please visit farmingtondonations.com.
Welcome back to Wave 3 Listens. Dr. Eli Karam is with us, a licensed marriage and family therapist. And the focus today, Dr. Karam, we were talking about rejection. We have another phone call. We want to get with that. But real quickly, relationship rejection. Yeah. Can you give us a nice little synopsis of a way to handle that? Of course, follow up with a licensed marriage and family therapist.
Yeah. Many marriage and family therapists are going to work with, again, individuals rebounding from this loss. So the biggest things in a relationship rejection, first of all, to be able to understand what happened. And as I say many times, I've never seen any relationship where one person is 100% to blame. It doesn't work that way. So it's a couple cycle. So you want to learn your part in that cycle so that you don't repeat it again in future relationships. You also, if you have unhealthy boundaries exiting the relationship, and you're feeling rejected, the last thing you want to do is keep trying to extend the relationship past this natural expiration date. So marriage and family therapist is going to help you to have kind of appropriate boundaries exiting that relationship, especially if you have children or you have merged assets. Sometimes it is sticky to kind of disentangle. And then also helping people with rejection with their relationships, really connecting to still what is good about yourself. Some people feel damaged that they cannot be a good partner for anybody, that they will be doomed, damaged goods. So marriage and family therapist is going to help you tap into those individual strengths in yourself to recognize the patterns where there are that are problematic, but also tap into what is good about yourself and help you kind of move forward in future relationship, whether that be with friends, family, romantic partners. They're going to help.
All right. We have a caller. Kansas is with us. Kansas, welcome to the show. You have Dr. Eli.
Hello. How are you?
Hi, Kansas. Go ahead.
My question is, me and my fiance have been together a long time, and we broke up for about 6 months, and we're back together, and we're engaged. But my background and his background are totally different, and I want to get a counselor to maybe point out some things that we both can work on. I see, he was raised by all women, and I have both parents. He had one parent, so he has a lot of insecurities that come in the relationship where I want to pinpoint, but I don't want to feel like he's being judged. Right. But I want a mutual ground to be able to both express and maybe come to an understanding and make sure that we're going to last in this relationship and not based off of being just comfortable with being together so long, right, and trying to make it work.
Right.
just because we've been together.
Right. Let me ask you a
That
couple
makes
questions.
sense.
Is he open to coming in and seeing somebody?
Actually, now he is.
Good. Good. So what you want to look for, again, is a licensed marriage and family therapist. So they have an LMFT after their name, and that means they're going to understand all of these kind of obstacles and developmentally normal roadblocks that you're describing. So you said a couple important things that you'd want to focus on. We talk about the family that we were raised in, which we call our family of origin. So you have very different family of origins, and that doesn't mean different bad, different good, just different. So couples have to understand those differences, and they're really centralized. Obviously, when you think about getting married, when you think about having kids, the way you were raised really comes forward. And many times, we do things. We say, oh, I didn't like that growing up. My parents didn't do this, or I didn't get that, so I'm sure I don't want to do that. Other times we kind of operate on this unconscious level. We replicate patterns that we don't even know we're replicating from our family. So you're right. Having an understanding about the differences and how you grew up was really important. The other thing you said, also essential what a family therapist, a couple therapist can do. If your partner has sensitivities or vulnerabilities, as you said, sometimes it is very hard, even if we love our partner, to point those out. A marriage and family therapist is going to build an alliance, a relationship with both of you. And it's not like a referee or is going to pick you're right or you're wrong. They're building a relationship with the couple, and they want the couple to succeed. So the therapist is going to be able to understand your fiance's sensitivities and kind of give you a way to communicate about them so that he doesn't feel you're trampling on them. Do you often feel you don't know how to approach him about some of these sensitivities?
Yes,
Yeah.
and I start to criticize myself. So I just wanted to come on a mutual. I didn't want it to be my side of the family or his side of the family. I didn't want him to feel that the mediator would take sides.
Exactly. So, you have to think about this. It's like most people, we have the distinction what we call primary and secondary emotion. People think anger or frustration or critical comments, they think those are primary. They're really not. They are, everybody, it's easier to get angry than it is to show people what we're not so confident about, what we're insecure about, what we're embarrassed about that makes us less than. So we all have those wounds. And a marriage and family therapist is going to understand that, give you the way to show that you care about your partner, and give him a way to feel kind of more secure in his relationship with you. And the good news is that it sounds like you've been through a lot together. You took a break, you're back together. That must mean that you care about each other. And when you go to a marriage and family therapist, they're going to, again, tap into that strength. They're going to give you these tools to fight fairly, to navigate, again, these developmentally appropriate hurdles that every couple faces. So I hope you do reach out. Again, you can go to www.therapistlocator.net. You're going to put in your, see that rectangular red box there? You click on that. You put in your zip code, and you're going to find all the marriage and family therapists in that area. And you can even ask your fiance who he's more comfortable, a man or a woman. I would encourage him to be in that phone call to help you pick out the right person. And I wish you much luck. Thank you, Kansas.
Thank you very much for the call, Kansas. You know what's interesting about Kansas' call is a lot of times I would assume in your business you get where the status is emergency status. She is actually being proactive.
Yes.
And saying, I see some things simmering and I want to handle them before I get married. And this time of year when a lot of folks are getting engaged, this is just really smart, sound thinking.
Yeah, right. We're a couple of weeks away from Valentine's Day. But yeah, just the idea of prevention is the best form of intervention. So if you get these skills early on, if you know what's coming in the relationship and you know how to navigate them, you don't freak out in the crisis moment. Exactly.
All right. Thank you so much. Dr. Eli Karam again. Kentucky Association of Marriage and Family Therapists. All right, coming up, New Year's resolutions. It's not over. You're still on track, right? You're going to lose that weight. We're going to talk about the Ageless Center. They've been helping people lose weight for 30 years. Kelly Johnson is with us. She's going to tell us her personal story. We'd love to hear yours as well. We'll be right back on Wave 3 Listens.
It doesn't seem real. It seems very movie-like.
You just sprint through the gate and then you slow down and you just take in the moment.
The figures running in front of you with USA on their back.
It displays togetherness.